Good morning, Colin. Welcome to ANZ Blue Notes. Colin, you've come from the public service, from the Ombudsman position at the federal government, and your title at ANZ is Customer Fairness Advisor. So what's that all about?
Well, the role is all about ensuring that customers, whether they're small business or retail, are treated fairly. It's a contribution role, is the way I see it, and I'm hoping to work with those involved in the bank in dealing with retail and small business customers, just to ensure that decision making in relation to those customers is fair in all the circumstances.
So, Colin, where does that fit then in between a customer advocate, which ANZ has had for about a decade or so, and then that formal financial services ombudsman scheme?
Well, I see the role concentrating primarily on dealing with systemic issues. The customer advocate handles complaints. Those who complained about ANZ have got the right to go to the Financial Ombudsman Service afterwards. That's the way complaints would be handled. But I would see my focus, as I said before, being concentrating on ensuring that decision making and to inform decision making within the bank on the issue of fairness to customers.
And that's across products and services, the whole?
It's across primarily retail and small business customers.
Previously you have been the Financial Services Ombudsman, but why is this role necessary in a bank? Shouldn't banks be treating people fairly anyway?
Well, I think generally speaking banks do treat people fairly, but now and again things seem to go off the rails, and what I'd be really keen to contribute to is that input to make sure that customers are treated fairly and to make that contribution, in a sense, in partnership with ANZ employees.
And we have seen not a lot of these sorts of roles, but a couple. Jeff Kennett famously did a role like this, but it was temporary. What sort of difference do you think you can make in the long term?
Well, one of the things all of us want to do is have jobs that make a difference to the organisations of which we might be part. And I think this has developed in the background of things like the Australian Consumer Law, the Financial Services Regulatory Regime, and a whole lot of other initiatives especially over the last 10 to 15 years. So I think it's become more important for organisations to be not only focused on their customers from the point of view of service, but also focused to ensure that they are treated fairly as well.
And indeed, one of the first things you'll do when you start at ANZ is a review of product and services and a review of how the bank conducts itself. What sort of things are you trying to find there?
Well, I think where I'd really like to start is doing a survey of what the bank has done by way of remediation in the past. Things have gone wrong in the past, and customers have been compensated in different ways, and I think having a good look at remediation processes and what's been achieved, and also to develop some principles in the context of remediation is a pretty good place to start.
And you talk about wanting to make a difference. How do you measure success then?
Well, that's one of those issues that ombudsmen always have to cope with, actually, is to measure the effect that one has on an organisation. I suppose I would like to be able to look back over the period that I serve in this new role and feel that customers are treated more fairly than they were when I started. But what I want to acknowledge is that financial institutions, generally speaking, do treat their customers fairly now, but it's just enhancing the role and making sure that we're all on the right track.
Because, I mean, there's no doubt that there's been a sort of pervasive mistrust of not just corporate Australia, but corporates around the world, and it seems to have become more intense, this lack of trust. So are these the sorts of roles that corporate Australia needs to bring on to help that issue?
Well, I think they are myself. I think, having been a part of corporate Australia, I've been in the workforce now for 58 years, full and part-time. You'll be pleased to know I didn't start working full-time at a very young age. But I think that coming back to some of the first principles which were apparent to me when I first started working in retail back in 1958 would not be such a bad idea. And they include being focused on the customer, but also making sure that customers are treated fairly.
Well, good luck with the role, Colin. It'll be very interesting to see how this role develops, and thanks for speaking with Blue Notes.
It's a pleasure. I'm really looking forward to working with ANZ.